Welcome to episode number 18 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Senecroce and I'm thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking to Lisa Wells. For more than 10 years, Lisa has empowered entrepreneurs how to create structure in their online business so they can have more of what they want, whether it's time, money, or freedom. She's the creator of System Success Series, a training program for creatives with too much to do and too little time, as well as the author of 3 books and many published articles. Lisa has been featured in Entrepreneur.com, Military Spouse Magazine, Aspire Magazine, and Association of Work at Home Women Magazine, and is currently serving as president of the International Virtual Assistants Association. She lives in the Sandhills of North Carolina, and when she's not working, traveling, speaking, or consulting, she's curled up on the couch with a dog or 3. Hi Lisa, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and as I just said offline, we've had our difficulties finding a date because first it was you who had no electricity because of the hurricane in Florida, and then I was traveling, so I'm glad to finally have some time to talk to you.
Yes, and it's before the election, so because you never
Oh,
know
yeah,
what's going
yeah.
to happen.
You never know. Well, that's terrible to say, but yeah, we're just recording this the day before the election, so. Yes, we're not going to go into politics, but just kind
Yeah,
of
no, please.
giving it a context. Yeah. So, Lisa, besides your official bio, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and probably something, since this is a podcast for introverts, something that the introverted audience can relate to.
Oh, well, I mean, working alone, of course. And I wasn't one of those people who set out looking to work at home because I sort of fell into it. I was working, I'm a military spouse, so
Mm.
was working many years in corporate world, and then we get orders to go across the country, and I just didn't couldn't find anything that was just suited for what I did, which was IT, information technology. So I thought, this is going to be interesting. And at the time, I really didn't even think in terms of being extroverted or introverted because it was just such a routine at that point. But I have noticed that I am so well suited for working on my own because I can work independently. I can, relate to others when I need to. When I don't want to talk to anybody for the whole day, I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I love working on my own, independent, without having to collaborate or get with other people.
So
And
yeah,
I didn't realize it until I started doing it.
that's interesting, and I think the what you said about being a military spouse, did that, I guess, help you because you then had this location independent business and you didn't need a team and you just kind of set up shop every place you went.
Well, that's the biggest benefit. Now
Mm.
I'm always telling other people, no matter where I go, no matter if I'm at an event or um, on base or off base, I tell everybody this is what I do, and gosh, look into it.
Yeah.
So it's like half education, half being a cheerleader for the industry, but it is, and I didn't even know it existed until I started looking within a few months of us leaving. I
Mm.
had no idea that anything existed, and that was 11 years ago. So, of course, things are much different today. So, yes, it definitely helps,
Mm.
whenever we have to move anywhere because we might be going overseas pretty soon. So, you just never know.
You never know, yeah.
Hmm.
So it can be a benefit, but I can also see that maybe in terms of outside of business, in terms of social integration, how has your introversion played there? Because every time you have to, find your social net again in the new country, I guess all the military spouses kind of find each other. I assume there's probably events organized. Am I right?
A lot of times it sort of comes built in sometimes. It depends where you live. If you live on the base or the post, the Army calls it post, Marines call it a base. So if you live there, there's lots and lots of things for you to get involved with. I was never one of those people. We always would live off base because I would generally work, and that's where my social group kind of was from. And they'll kind of mandatorily put you in a position where they want you to get with others. So nowadays, I'm in a position where I'm one of those people that come in to help create agendas and events and the direction of where the command is going to go for the next 18 months. So when I came in and they said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting it on like a fall fair and like a spring event for families," and I said, "No, people they don't generally enjoy those kind of things. Let it happen organically." I said, let's use technology. Let's use Facebook groups. And if people want to join in, great. If they don't have a need because sometimes people feel obligated. They're thinking, oh, well, this person who's having the party is someone who's higher up in the command, and it would look
Mhm.
good if I showed up. And I always thought that those were just a little bit forced.
Yeah.
And I just never went to them. So
Yeah.
I kind of always tell people, if you want to go, but I'm not gonna. That's a lot of energy, way too
Yeah.
much energy for me to expend.
Yeah, I can just picture myself at an event like that where you have to like make forced conversation.
Oh yes,
It's a
yes. And
lot
I
of
was never
energy
one
for
of
an
those.
introvert.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And a lot of time, and it, pair me up with somebody who's like a complimentary person who's like a connector. Well, they'll go out and grab this person's hand and walk over and say, "This person has something in common with you. Why don't you go talk about it?" Or I'm the behind the scenes person. I'm just making sure that everything's working and everybody's having, I guess, a good time. But don't put me in charge of, because interaction for me is very draining.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I didn't even know the meaning of introvert until, yeah, I always thought it meant you're a shy person. I had no idea up until, gosh, maybe a couple years ago, what it really was for what it meant to be an introvert.
Mm.
So now I can say, like, oh, yes, I have my own battery pack. I don't need it from all this external stimulation.
Yeah. What's interesting though is that most of the times we now, us introverts, we know we're introverts and we understand it. But if you're trying to explain it to somebody, they'll still say, "Oh, you're just shy."
Right,
So,
right, right.
yeah, it means something to us, and that whole energy thing, we understand
Mhm.
it, but usually other people still don't. So it's
Yeah.
still a lot of education around it,
I
definitely.
agree.
Mm.
And now we have memes. If we just circulate a meme on Facebook,
Yeah.
sometimes that explains it so well rather than us having to, try to explain it to others.
Exactly. Well, Lisa, tell us a little bit about how you're currently generating revenue. So, what's your business model, and how do you make a difference in other people's lives and for yourself?
I started off as a virtual assistant 11 years ago. And so I was one of those who I was happy for a while, like a year or two, and then I always was looking for what's the next level? What's the next thing I want to do? So I would kind of jump around from being a VA to online business manager to back to being a VA, and then I wanted to start coaching other VAs and training. And so it's always evolving. So
Hmm.
currently I have two sort of separate revenue models. I have my Infusionsoft, reseller and consulting, which I love it because I don't really have to have any long-term clients. It's more of like go in, do an implementation or do a 2 to 3 month project and then turn it over to their team, which I've always wanted it to be like that because when we do travel, say if he's going overseas for 6 months, I want to be able to take off a couple weeks, 3 weeks, and go enjoy myself and not have to worry, or go away on sailboats for the weekend and not have to check in all the time with clients. So I love it how I'm building it in that way that that's what it's going to look like. So far it's been okay. This has been maybe in the last year that I've been focusing more on project clients. So I have the Infusionsoft side. And then there's the virtual assistant training side, which I didn't really intend to do any of that. But I had a lot of people come to me and say, I see that you're doing packages. How did you come about that? Or how do you deal with a client who's maybe going out of their boundaries? And I always felt like I had great advice, but I didn't want to say I was a coach because I know coaches have a specific process and certifications and everything. So I just decided I just want to just do training. I want to sell forms. I want to sell planners for another business or income stream. But I mainly just want to do training programs. And then they can sign, pay for it, sign up, go through the program. And I pop into Facebook once in a while to answer questions. So I'm still very much involved in the VA community, especially with International Virtual Assistants Association. I volunteer a lot with them. I'm on the board this year, so I'm very much still in tune with the VA community. But I feel like I wouldn't call myself a VA these days. I'm more doing project management. So that's what I enjoy most. Creating the programs and, working one-on-one in short bursts.
Okay.
Short short projects.
Yeah, short projects. Yeah, so you
Hmm.
can take off and go to other countries and follow your husband.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the training programs. Are these one-off programs, or are they do it yourself and sign up whenever you want kind of programs?
They're a mix because one is it's called System Success Series, and it's for the clients who are not VAs. They're business owners who just want more structure. They want more systems. They want ready-made processes. So that's a done-for-you program. They sign up once, they get access to the training and the workflows and the modules. And then I've got my packages program, which I run 2 to 3 times a year. And it's sort of like the model is the launch, they purchase, the cart closes, and then I focus just on those VAs for 90 days and get them to, help them create their packages and then just kind of hang out with them for another couple months and then run it again. So they're a little bit different. And then I have an ongoing one, which is I'm revamping it. And it's one of those introductory training programs for VAs. I just don't see it with I see other people teaching hard skills like, hey, learn how to do a WordPress site or how to do something specific. But I don't see it like what you need to know to set up a business as a VA. So I
Yeah.
created that years ago as a PDF. It was just like an ebook. And I've been revamping it and now it's in like a course format. So they get audios and videos and trainings and supplements. And I'm revamping it because there's so much more new information.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot about financials this last year. So now
Oh, yeah. So
I
so
want to
it's
pass on.
it's really
Yeah.
best
So
practices on how to start your VA business.
yes. And
Yeah, that's great.
things that you don't really need to know. If you go to there's a course of classes called SCORE. And it's a series of like 6 classes they give at the community college in the evenings. And I thought, well, I want to see what this is all about. I keep hearing about it. So I show up and they overwhelmed me with all these things you need to start up a business. You need, licenses and businesses and contracts and policies and insurance and banking and all this stuff. And I looked at it, I'm like, no wonder why
Nobody.
VAs never get going on their
Yeah,
business,
yeah.
but they don't need all that. So I kind of
Mm,
like to just give them the Cliff Note version. Like, this is
mm,
what you really need to get started.
yeah, that's great. I think that's yeah. You're right. There's so many courses that teach VAs or even other business owners the skills that they need maybe to build their business, but more in terms of how to build a website, how to set up your email marketing and things like that. But the financial stuff or insurances and all of that, you just don't know where to go. And I think that's very good that you created a course like that. So you have the different kind of models where one
area is just self-taught. I guess people just buy it and then they see videos or do audios. And then you said you have one where you actually accompany them, so that's kind of part coaching, right?
Yes, it's more, and yeah, the coaching part is, well, I call it more consulting than coaching because
Mm-hmm.
I like it when somebody asks me a question, like, here's my situation, what do I do? And the coaching would come into play if I would, help them birth the baby, where I consider myself more of a consultant where I'm going to give them a step by step of this is what you need to do. So,
Right.
if I could birth the baby for them, I would. But I just like to give them this is what I found to be most helpful. Feel free to use my words. Feel free to model it just like how I have it. Kind of giving them shortcuts. I
Right.
think with coaching, and I work with a lot of coaches and creatives, I think that they have a different way of just their approach than
Mm-hmm.
I would. So yes, I accompany them on Facebook. Sometimes I'll say, let's just jump on the phone and hash this out, or let's just do a quick Skype, or let's do a Facebook Live video so I can answer everybody's questions. I just found that more helpful.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice mix to have a little bit of both. So some really passive income, and then some income that where you still enjoy the interaction with people. At least
Yes.
in my business, that's what I still enjoy actually the most. And people always talk, yeah, you got to do online courses, and you got to scale, and you got to make bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. But I still like to talk to people and do group coachings or have this kind of small community and see the actual results. I think that's what's important to me as well. Is when you are completely just doing it kind of in a passive way, then maybe people are not going to tell you what kind of results they got. Where if it's in a group coaching, there's a much deeper relationship that's being established. And it seems like that's kind of what you're doing as well.
Yes, and I totally agree. I feel that, I mean, because I do affiliate marketing where you're basically promoting other people's products and programs and things. So I feel like I'm always protective of my subscribers in my group, and I just want to go above and beyond for them. So,
Yeah.
when I first started the programs, they did not have the Facebook component. It was strictly just sign up, you get access here. Everything was already pre-recorded, and they would download things, and I never hear back from them.
Yeah.
And I think, like, so how are you guys doing, by the
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
So I'm glad I went back, and during the revamping, I started adding in the Facebook, and I really like the interaction. Even if it's just, hey, I'm in module 4, can you clarify something? Well,
Yeah.
that gives me feedback to go in and maybe edit the video in such a way that it does make it more clear. So I do like the feedback too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not because we're introverts that we don't want any interaction. It really depends. Yeah, what kind of interaction? I mean, these are people who come to you. You don't have to, go and promote your services to them or something like that. That's different, right? So, let's
Yeah.
talk about a little bit about these. I like to call them the introverted superpowers. So, what do you think, Lisa, is your biggest strength as an introverted entrepreneur?
I feel that I can create and meet deadlines without having somebody hold me accountable. I never knew that, because to me it's just inherent. I'm very deadline driven and very accountable. So I feel that that really helps with running my own business and working with clients and managing projects, even if it's, the volunteering or working with the Infusionsoft uh, project clients people. So I
Mhm.
think the accountability piece,
Yeah.
I think, is the biggest strength.
Mm. Why do you think that has to do with introversion?
I just feel that because you don't have that. I feel that, like, the extroverts who are always looking, they're looking to collaborate with people, and
Mhm.
they're always getting others' feedback and then maybe changing something based on that. And I don't know, accountability just doesn't. It's not inherent. So I think
Mhm.
with introversion, it just helps because I don't have to. I don't have to have that. I think
Yeah.
it's just something that's innate and inherent. So,
Yeah, you don't need somebody else to give you a deadline. You just give it to yourself
right,
and you stick to it. Yeah,
right.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think the whole teamwork and working in a team, or having always somebody else to give you their opinion, that's definitely more an extroverted way of thinking. Where introverts, we're well, I guess we're a lot of time in our heads, and we do the whole planning in our own heads, and so
Hmm.
we also commit to these deadlines that we put ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about a challenge that you've noticed that you think also has to do with your introversion?
I would say I've become so accustomed to working alone and, being a lone ranger that I sometimes forget that there's others out there who might
Mm.
be going through the same thing that I am. And it's okay to reach out.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we get so far into I don't want to bug anybody. I don't want to bother them.
yeah,
When I love it when people reach out. One to one, I got 3 phone calls this morning already from people, reaching out one to one, and I really like it. So I think, getting accustomed to working alone is great, but always remember that it's okay to reach out. And of course, it's in small doses, of course.
mhm,
When I go to, I know that so, for example, attending a network event, I know it's essential to get out there and connect with people, to get clients or something, but it's so draining.
yeah.
So, I mean, you've got the loud music and the exercises and 3 hugs before you leave to break and all that. Oh my gosh. So, I think that extroverts take for granted that this is completely normal. And after a day of networking, they can do more networking that night. But for me, I have to take that break.
Yeah,
Small doses and just to re-energize by being alone.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that that's quite the challenge is, um, you know, reaching out in small doses
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, and it's come up several times. Is that we learn to ask for help as well, and because we're so often in our own heads, we think that we're bothering other people if we ask them for their view or their opinion, where
Hmm.
actually, as you just said, if people do it to you, you actually feel honored that they would ask you, right? So
Yeah.
why do we always assume that other people, might be annoyed if we ask them? So it's a good
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about, I call them the three golden nuggets. So, some resources that you would like to share with the audience. The first one is a personal habit that you think contributes to your success.
Personal habit, I would say the power of following up.
Mm,
So, for example, my days are rarely as structured as I'd like them to be. No matter how I try to keep to a strict schedule, it usually doesn't happen that way. But what I do really well is follow up with prospects, potential clients, and also communicating with current clients. So, for an example, I was, just kind of starting out with the Infusionsoft projects, and I don't have a team under me. So I don't have an in-house copywriter and graphic designer and everything. So somebody had asked me, somebody referred you about doing a project, can you send in a proposal? So I did, and I didn't. I mean, I was thinking I'm going up against 3 other basically firms who had in-house, they had employees, everything. But I kept checking in with that woman every, I'd say, 5 days or so. And I knew that she was going on vacation. I knew that she had some stuff come up. And then I let her know my power was out. So I didn't want to miss an email. But because of that, I got hired. It wasn't because I had a big team or I came in under, the cheapest out of everybody, but it was just simply following up and communicating with them, which in our
mm,
virtual world is so important. And I think people lose sight of that. So for me, that's a really good personal habit. And I tell people, you might not be the cheapest or you might not be the biggest, but boy, they will love it if you communicate.
that's true. let me ask you something. Did you call them or did you send them an email?
This was a corporate type client,
Okay.
so usually phone calls work a lot better.
Uh-huh.
But if it's late at night, and this is when I usually get in my emails, I just want to say, hey, quick check in. Just, I know you're coming back from vacation. Just want to see if you've made a decision yet. And
Okay.
then she would come back and say, let's schedule a phone call. So then it was a phone call. It
Okay.
turned into that. So yeah,
Interesting.
it de-
Because to
yeah, it
me, it would have been
depends.
difficult to do these follow-ups via phone call. Because again, I
It
would feel
does.
like an intruder and, oh, it's me again, by the way. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think
Normally I
I always
don't.
prefer email, but you're right. Sometimes it's better to just pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and usually I go from their lead. If they prefer that, they're like, "Oh, I really don't like all this back and forth. Can we just get on the phone?"
Right.
Absolutely. But I don't publish my phone number and I don't usually put it anywhere because I really don't like phone calls.
Oh, yeah,
I
okay.
really don't like phone calls. So
Okay.
I try like you, I really prefer email.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but it's true. If it goes back and forth, sometimes it's just you have to do it
Yeah.
via the phone. Yeah, I had a difficult phone call this morning. Actually, I had a client who hasn't paid, and so I sent them two reminders, and I've been like, who am I kidding? He's not going to answer, so I just need to pick up the phone and give him a call, and in the end, he was just like, oh, I'm really sorry, I've been traveling, so you know, all of this anxiety that built up because he didn't answer my email, I could have easily solved it by just picking up the phone earlier. But yeah, it's one of those introvert things. We just don't like this
Yeah,
confrontation, and yeah,
exactly.
phone calls are just dreadful. All right. What about an internet resource that you use for your business and that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Oh, that's an easy one. I use Meet Edgar for my social media scheduling. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a social media schedule and marketing system. And the beauty of this program is that it's not your normal schedule in which you upload a bunch of posts, Facebook posts, LinkedIn, Twitter, and then you set your timer for 3 months, and then you upload a bunch more and make sure you haven't used one, or you want to change it up a little bit. But instead, it's a database. So you add posts and it never runs out. When it runs out of posts, it just starts over from the beginning. So you never run out. You don't have to really worry that you're not going to be seen as being online. Things are automatically going out, no matter if you're there on vacation. And that leaves me time to just engage. So if somebody sends me a question, a comment, um, something, I can engage with them that way. And I'm not wasting my time posting all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Interesting. How is it different from Hootsuite, for example?
Well, Hootsuite, you have to upload a number of posts, and when they're done, they're done.
Okay, so it
So,
runs on a loop on Edgar.
yeah, it's more of a database. So, yeah,
Right.
the database, when it gets to the end, it just restarts over from scratch. So, the more posts you put in, the less often it's repeated. So, with Hootsuite, it's a one time shot. You upload it, you schedule it, it's done.
Yeah.
With this one, it's just ongoing, and you can shuffle your posts, you can put them on pause. Whenever we have a tragedy, last thing I want to be seen is, hey, everybody, look at my funny photo kind of thing. So, I like to be able to pause it and I just keep adding to it. I put in a lot of other people's posts, like this podcast, sharing things. It's just, I love the program. I absolutely love it.
Excellent. I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes. What about a book? I'm pretty sure I have my. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you're another introverted bookworm. I think everybody I had on the podcast so far, they all said yes. I'm a big reader, so I'm I'm ready to bet that you're a big reader too. And
Oh, I am. I am. Well, I mean, Zig Ziglar's all about the mobile university. So I've got books. I listen to my book to sleep because I have
Mhm.
a really hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. So I have audiobooks and I usually listen to about 10 or 12 a year. I love my audiobooks. And then my clients, when they say, "Hey, we'd like to send you a gift," I always say, "Send me a book. Send me your favorite business book." So I've got quite the library. But
Wow.
I always recommend, I love Bob Berg, and he was a book that a client sent to me last year, and the book was The Go-Giver.
Mm-hmm.
And I love because he's a great example. First of all, I follow him on Twitter, and he's a great example of communicator. So whenever I favorite something or retweet it, he always reaches out personally
Oh,
and
wow.
says, "Hey, great to see you here Saturday, Lisa. What's been going on?" I just love him. So he's a really good, he's so attentive, and I love it. And so I know that that book, The Go-Giver, is not only a book, but a movement.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
and I
I
and
don't
I
think
love
I've
to go.
read his book. I've heard about it, definitely, but I don't think I've ever read it. So I need to add that to my Kindle right away.
Yeah, it's great. I think there's also another, like, the Go Giver series or the Go Giver, and but it's more, and this is something that I only have been experiencing the last couple years, about um, opening up, coming from a place of service.
Mm.
And instead of going into, when you're first starting up your business, you're like, "Oh, I need clients, I need money, I need clients, I need money." And you don't stop to think, you're giving off that energy when you talk to that person.
Yeah.
You're almost looking over their shoulder to see who you can talk to next, kind of thing. But it just kind of reminds me, slow down, come from a place of service. What are you working on that's really interesting this year? And they're just like opening up about their program or their baby or whatever. And you can say, "You know what, I would love, let's talk more because I think I can help you." Or
Mm-hmm.
I know of somebody that's a good resource for you. But, coming from that place, it's just made this fundamental shift that not only does it make things easier in the business, but really changed my perspective. So I really like his books.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like it's also this abundance perspective, right? Because if we're in the scarcity perspective, we always think, oh, I don't have enough clients, I don't have enough money. And I think as well that energy that you mentioned, the scarcity energy, that can be felt too. And if you give, instead of giving the scarcity, you give the abundance energy, and people, they relax around you because you're more relaxed, right? So I think that's, yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's another thing I've been working a lot with this year is, the energy and where you're coming from, and, mindset stuff, which I thought I had all that figured out, but I did not. So I've been working a lot on that this year.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't think we've ever figured it all out, but it's nice to continue to learn, right? That's
Hmm.
what we're here to do for. Wonderful. Well, I think we're kind of getting to an end here, but I always like to ask the last question. It's kind of a mindful ending. What are you grateful for today or this week, Lisa?
Oh, I'm always grateful. I'm a glass half full, so every day I always find things to be grateful for. And I was joking with somebody today because I knew we would be talking about, gratefulness. And I said, "You know what I'm grateful for?" And they're like, "Well, your family." I'm like, "Oh, that would have been nice to to have said, my family or my dog." But I think that, we're in such a, tumultuous place with all the
Mm-hmm.
energy going around the election. So I'm so happy it's going to be over with tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can get back to a place of, healing and coming together. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful that it's almost done,
Yeah.
almost over.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was just thinking the same thing. Well, I'm not American, but even here over here in Europe, we're just kind of tired of it, and we just hope for the best, and we're definitely, yeah, feeling with you guys because
Yeah.
it's been horrible here, so I can't even imagine how it must have been for you living there. So yeah, too much tension, too much division, too much, yeah, anger and anxiety. So
It's been, I mean, because we're considered this battleground state, so we get twice the number of phone calls and ads and everything. But actually the best thing that happened was my son's up in college. He's up in Chapel Hill, so about 90-minute drive from here. And our President Obama, made a visit there last week. I have never seen my kids so excited to see anybody. So he was very excited, and he's studying political science in college. So it was just one of those once in a lifetime things. So I'm like,
Wow.
wow, this would
Yeah.
have never happened if we lived in, I'm from California. So they,
Yeah.
they ignore it. They ignore Californians.
I don't think he would have come over there.
No, no.
Yeah. All right. Yes. So one more day, and by the time this podcast airs, hopefully it's been the right decision, whatever that means. But let's let's keep up the good energy. And again, I
Yes.
want to thank you, Lisa. It's been a great chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'll be sharing all the links to your websites and resources and all that good stuff in the show notes. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm like I said, I'm great to finally connect with you. It's been, running around in the same circles, and it's great to be with you and your audience. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, Lisa.
Make sure to check out Lisa on lisawells.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Lisa Wells Automates. That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsenacroce.com/episode 18. And if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the show on iTunes or Stitcher and tell your introvert friends about it. And if you really, really liked it, it would really make my day if you just committed as a Patreon on patreon.com, or you can also go to sarahsenacroce.com/Patreon. It costs about $70 to $100 to produce this podcast, and so obviously any kind of commitment you can make, even if it's just 50 cents per episode, would really make my day and just keep me motivated enough to keep going and producing this show every 2 weeks. I do really enjoy the conversations I'm having with all the people I'm interviewing, and I hope you do too, and learn something in each conversation, whether it is from their introverted superpowers on or how they apply this to business, or whether it's from a more business oriented perspective where you learn how these people grow their income with maybe a bit non-traditional ways, such as passive income and online courses, etc., etc. That's really my goal, to kind of give you both perspectives. There's already enough podcasts out there that just talk about the fact of being an introvert and how we deal with our daily lives. What I want to do in this podcast is really go into the aspect of running a business as an introvert, and maybe also give you a bit more information on how to do that online. So yeah, even just $1 or 50 cents per podcast per episode would really make my day. So you can find all the information at sarahsenacroce.com/Patreon. And I'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies, and pre-excitement is half the experience. Take care. Bye-bye.